Hi, my name's Michael Smith for Health Talk, and tonight I have a very special show. I have Luanna Reveles.
Yes.
Did I say it right? And we were having dinner next to each other at the, what's it called, the Prime, or what's it, Park Prime Restaurant at Hard Rock Cafe, Hard Rock?
Yes, yes.
And we're just got at the cabin, and then we got to talking, and when she was leaving, she gave me here a little pamphlet, and it was My Life as a Burn Survivor.
Yes.
And I thought, well, we just had Firefest the other day, and I've done a lot of the shows where we're trying to teach kids how to do things, and your story is very interesting. And basically, in May 20th of 1961, her family house burned down.
Yes.
And I guess a kerosene lamp got knocked over.
Yes.
Did anyone figure out how that happened or anything?
No.
But I guess it's one of those things that happen.
Yeah.
But anyways, she was 10 months old, and you were lucky you had an 8-year-old sister, broke a window.
Oh, yes.
And pulled Luanna outside by her blanket, but your blanket was on fire.
Yes.
So that's just the imagery. And then, so your face and side were badly burned.
Yes, they were.
And your sister suffered third-degree burns on her shoulder, hands, and feet. So this is a picture from the hospital. I don't know if you could zoom in on this. It was a pretty serious situation.
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah, so imagine being at 10 months old, and then this is the way that you have to start dealing with things.
Oh, yes. And I was very, very fortunate that I didn't lose my sight.
Yeah, but you ended up in, what was the hospital, St. Francis?
St. Francis Memorial Hospital.
And as a coincidence enough, I think that's where my Deborah spent time, and also as a child for, she was in there, I think, 2 years. And so anyways, it's a good hospital for kids, and as I did some more research, you probably lucked out that you ended up at that hospital.
Oh, yes, and I feel fortunate.
Yeah, and so as a kid, they had to do a lot of treatment on you.
Oh, yes, they did. They had to work a lot around, namely around the face area. They had to work on near my mouth and to make sure I had on my nose. They took some pieces off my ear so I would have a better, breathing with on my nose on my right side.
So they had to kind of clip other parts of your body to make other parts of the body that weren't burned.
That weren't burned, yeah.
So the first time, do you remember or was told how long you were in the hospital?
The longest I was in the hospital after I was burned for about, I would say about 1.5 years, but that was, in and out sometimes. But I had a lot of the surgeries, namely on my feet, to this on my left leg that was mostly burned more than my right leg. And they had to do a lot of reconstructive. In fact, I couldn't even wear shoes. I had to wear slipper socks because I always walked on the side of my left foot.
Well, I read in your article that the tendons were so tight that you had to walk on your side of your foot.
Yeah.
And then that operation to change that didn't happen until you were like 6.
Yeah.
And another curiosity I had was, you mentioned you changed hospitals when your doctor retired.
Yeah.
Did you have the same doctor from kid to all these years?
No, I had different other doctors. I had about 3 different doctors. And then when I finally had to have the records transferred to Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, where a burn survivor nurse, as we talked about earlier, that was very good, supportive to me. We had the records transferred because it was too hard for my foster parents to drive to San Francisco.
Well, what happened? You've had a challenging childhood. The first time you got out, you went to you were put into a juvenile home because your parents all the kids ended up going to foster homes.
Yeah, because they couldn't afford to take care of all of us after the fire. My birth parents were migrant workers.
Yeah.
As it says in the life story.
Yeah, so that's challenging right away.
Yeah.
So you're a scared little girl.
Yes. In fact, after the fire, 9 of us kids and my parents lived in a station wagon car on the beach because we had no house.
Well, that's really challenging. And then read that you sometimes your father used you for kind of like for donations?
For begging for money from people to order to whatever it was that he was wanting to do with the feeding the kids or whatever. I had no knowledge of that because I didn't have any real supportive to that because I was too young one thing. But then the other thing too is that I didn't even want to feel part of that because I knew that some of those things that, that's what they wanted to do and their choices.
Well, I think you said that in the article that Mendocino County kind of stepped in and said, we need to get you into some treatments.
Yes.
And that was a big deal, I think, from reading your article, that
Oh, yeah.
if it wasn't for that, your whole life changed because of that.
I know it. Yes, it has. And also, another thing that really helped me a lot, too, is that whenever I had the surgeries in San Francisco, the St. Francis Hospital was absolutely wonderful on my all my medical needs. In fact, before they built that hospital, they had another hospital. It was across the street. I was one of the first patients that moved from the old building to the new one.
I think I read someplace that
Yeah.
you were on TV watching yourself. As a little girl, you were packing your stuff and
My
taking
suitcase
You're
and-
carrying your own little suitcase.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Well, I wonder if you ended up spending any time with my Deborah, because she was there for a lot of years herself. So who knows? Small world.
You never know.
But I did some research on Google, and they have you pretty much ended up in a first class place,
Oh, yes.
and they've been taking care of people in that area for over 100 years. So
Oh, yeah.
you kind of lucked out there. But another thing you lucked out on is, if we're saying luck at all on this situation, is when you got out and were put into a juvenile home for a brief time, you got a new home with a foster family that was a minister, and
Yes, and they had 3 kids of their own, 2 girls and 1 boy.
Yes.
And then and my foster dad was part of the committee of Mendocino County that he knew a lady that worked through the juvenile hall system there. And so he then looked into it and he thought that would be a good thing to adopt a child. And so he thought that was me. And so,
well, you have such a big heart, so I can see how he would
yeah.
say, I'm gonna get her.
yes.
But you're very human. When you gave me this, you kind of it's all out there. How your new family kind of taught you new habits
Oh, yes.
for self-image and things, and to get under control, because you didn't really have the self habits with your other birth parents.
No, I didn't. In fact, I was so happy when I got out of juvenile hall because I was so uncomfortable there with all the teasing and the hurting of me from other kids there that didn't understand what a burn victim was, or whatever the situations were at that point.
Well, kids can be very tough, and that's bullying basically.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're working real hard on bullying, but I can imagine that'd be a terrible hardship.
Oh, yes, and it was. In fact, it says in my life story about this boy that my foster mom tried to go talk to his mother about teasing and spitting on me and throwing me off my bike. They didn't think anything of it, so they didn't scold the child for doing that.
Well, luckily hopefully this show we can get some awareness of
Yes.
what these things do to people as a child, and how they stay with you for life.
Oh, yeah.
And because people are working real hard on getting bullying to stop, and we're all different.
yes.
We're all different. So
Yes.
just go with your heart rather than going with they should get to know you first, and then if they don't want to be your friend, then that's a different situation. But
Oh, yeah.
just don't make a judgment before they get to know you.
That's right.
Yeah, when we're cooking our steaks the other night, we didn't care.
No.
Matter of fact, that's a great steak. I had
Oh.
yeah, that was good. Did you have steak too?
Yeah. Well, actually, I had the baked chicken.
Well, I hope your vacation's doing quite
Oh,
well.
it is. Everybody there has been wonderful to
Yeah,
us.
because you all are here from the San Jose area,
Yes.
so we appreciate you coming and visiting, because we just like to welcome people to our area. But
yeah.
before we get too much for the first break, can you give out your cell phone number so people can call
yes.
you and talk to you about some of the things we're going to talk to you in the
Oh,
second
yeah.
half?
By all means. The cell phone number is area code 408 489 3396. And my name is Luanna Reveles.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about some more, some people that are doing things. One of the things we're going to touch upon is one of your passions is to help kids go to, is it like a camp for kids?
Yes, it's under the Burn Foundation, Firefighters Burn Foundation of Santa Clara County, to help burn children go to camp. So the parents can get a little bit of a rest.
Okay, well,
So,
we'll talk about that when we come back.
yeah.
This is Michael Smith with Luanna, and she's got a heart of gold, so we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you very much.
Barton Hospice is care for the patient in the home, wherever they call home, and support for the family, not just during the illness and the dying process, but for a year after the patient is gone. We come alongside them. We help them walk the road of the dying process. We manage symptoms, nausea, pain, fatigue, loneliness, many of the symptoms that happen with dying, and help the families understand not just how to manage it now, but how to go on from here, what's coming next. We take a lot of the fear out of the process. They have 24/7 support from nursing. They can pick up the phone anytime, anywhere, and call. We will call them back, and we will get them help.
The team that they have there is excellent. The nurses are phenomenal. They work really hard. They have lots of experience, which is really important when it comes to hospice. They're very dedicated to the patients.
My father was diagnosed with CHF, congestive heart failure, about a year before his death, and Barton Hospital recommended that I call hospice and get them involved in the whole process. And when I called, I was delighted to know, first of all, the nurse in charge was somebody I grew up with, so that was very nice. Somebody who knew my father, that I knew I was comfortable with. And because my father and I were living together and he did not want to die in the hospital, that they would come to the house and they would treat him there, and that was very comforting to me.
Someone should consider hospice care when they have a life-limiting illness, they really don't want aggressive treatment anymore or to be in the hospital. They want comfort, they want to be with their family, they want to enjoy life, they don't want a lot of lab tests, and they don't want a lot of being a doctor's hobby.
When the patient has a terminal illness and we know that they have 6 months or less to live, or that's what we think, it can make a huge difference in their quality of life. Hospice is a team approach, so it's not just a doctor seeing the patient or a nurse, it's a doctor, a nurse, a chaplain, a social worker. So they look at the patient as a whole, and that includes the family. So it helps with the whole support system.
They're the piece of the support puzzle that is missing quite often or that you forget. And from day one, they were gracious. They were very careful to explain everything to me, which was great, and what was going to happen, what the process was, and basically what their role was, and where I could access them and when I could access them. And so for about a year, they came into our house, and the CNAs would give my dad a shower or rub his feet or just make him feel comfortable, and the nurses were checking on him, and they always made him laugh and just treated him like a human being.
The care provided at the skilled nursing facility is the same care that's provided in the home, with the difference that the skilled nursing facility acts as family, and the family also acts as family. So we have two families that we are working with. The aides and the nurses who provide care in the skilled nursing unit do the same as a family caregiver would. But then we also have the family members who come in and additionally care for their family member. They're just not able to do the 24/7 care that some patients require.
My mother was an Alzheimer's patient, and she resided in the skilled nursing facility, and she was there for about 6.5 years. And she thrived in there. I mean, they kept her active and healthy, and it was amazing. They're an amazing place too. I could go on and on about them.
Because we become so close with the families and with the patients, we too have to grieve. And we tell the stories of the patient, tell how they've blessed us, what we've learned from them, how they've gifted us. And the person who was closest to them chooses a ribbon in their honor and weaves it into the tapestry. And if there's more than one person that felt especially close to that client, they get more than one ribbon.
It's that year or two afterwards that's really, really tough. I'm still struggling with mom's loss. I mean, and I will for the rest of my life, you know, for both of their loss. And Pastor Al calls me every once in a while and says, you know, how you doing? I'm checking in. Is everything okay? And you know, so I know he's still there, and so it's been good.
The patient and the family know we're going to be there to triage any kind of symptoms that they've got, to continue to work on the project of getting this patient to a peaceful and beautiful death.
Hi, we're back in Luanna, and I just wanted to give out a couple more numbers before we go much farther. There's a gal named Jill Sproul who helps you with what's the name of that hospital again?
It's Santa Clara Valley Medical Center.
And her number is 408-885-6670, and she's would be influential on some of these things we're talking about as far as getting treatment. I checked out their hospital, and one of the reviews was the burn center is excellent, very professional, well educated. They treat us like family, which I think
yes,
in your
they do.
situation is very important. Excellent care and service, and they are educated with the latest technology. And then they've been treating burn patients for 35 years. So
Yes.
that's part of the luck, I think, too. And St. Francis, I have their phone number at 415-353-6000.
Yes.
And then the other one that we just talked about was the San Jose Firefighters Burn Foundation.
Yes.
And they're the ones that we want kids to go to. It's
It's
a
a
camp.
burn camp.
So kids can go with other kids and they don't get picked on,
I know. And then also they get counseling on how to deal with their injuries.
which is good.
And it's wonderful. It helps them to cope, and knowing they're not alone in their burn injury. There's others that have been through the same thing as they have.
Well, I think not being alone takes care of a lot of stress.
Oh, yes.
And the number that actually Jill called me back and we got talking about Luanna. She goes, I hadn't seen her in 10 years. so that was kind of a funny conversation.
Yes.
And yeah, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And she gave me a number of Scott, who was at the San Jose Firefighters Burn Foundation, and he is 408-507-0981, and see if we can get some kids to go to camp and just be kids.
Yeah, that's right, and have fun.
Because one of the things that I was reading is when they fixed your leg or your foot, so
Yes.
your foot was no longer sideways, you could actually run.
Yes, and I
That
can.
you actually leaped off of some stairs or something, and you still had your cast on.
Yes, and at that time when I did that, my foster mom just put her hand to her forehead, and said, "What in the world am I getting into?"
You were a kid that was holding back.
Yes.
And then it was no time like the present. You're ready to play.
Yeah. So.
But you had all these challenges, and then but some of the things you did, you had years of treatment,
Oh yes.
and they had to work it from head to toe on you. And then, like I said, you took part of your ear for your nose, and then they
Yes.
sanded your face, and they put a wire in your baby toe.
Yes. What happened is that when the doctor put a wire in my baby toe, the baby toe was on the foretoe. And so they had to bend that toe back and put a wire in it about the size of your point finger. And oh, that was painful. I didn't like that.
Well, then you had a new life, and you met Armando right here, and he helped you kind of have a life companion for 20-some years now.
Oh, yes.
And but one of the reasons I was so glad to meet you
Thank
is
you.
for years I covered a little event called Firefest in our little South Lake Tahoe, and it seems like I was covering the same thing. But one of the good things was if there's a fire, the kids can drop and then roll if they're on fire, and drop
Yes.
to get out of the smoke. So that's some good safety. And then about pots and pans on the stove, so you make sure you don't run into the handles.
Yeah.
So if everybody can start keeping their handles, or some people don't even have
Oh,
handles, so you
yes.
can take your handles off. And I remember as a kid, someone knocked over, I think it was some oil of some kind onto our neighbor's dog. So
Yes.
burning can be a lot of situations.
Oh, yeah.
And then if there's a fire, call 911.
Oh, yes. Well, that's why I feel for those that have been injured by fire-related things, like
Yeah.
even firemen. their jobs are very, very treacherous and
Well,
dangerous, but they do it to protect
Yeah,
us.
because you didn't have a chance with being a 10-month-old, but
I know.
you help other kids, teach kids how to.
Oh, yes.
You do fire safety.
Well, not only fire safety, but what I do is I let them know when they want to know what happened to me, I let them know that it's okay to touch. It's not going to hurt me, but let them know, even though that it's scarred and burned, it's feelings just like their arms are, or
Excellent.
whatever with.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're a real person.
So, yes, that's what I look at.
That's what I thought too. Is
Yes.
That's how I was admiring your steak. I said,
Amen on that.
so that's just a measure of going through challenges, coming through with a positive attitude, and making the
Yes.
best of your life.
Amen on that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I do want to make known is that I do really cherish what my birth parents gave me is a Bible. That was next to me, that kerosene spilt in it from the lamp, but the Bible did not burn.
Awesome.
And I look at that every day, and I think that is my total lifesaver, along with my sister that saved me, that
What?
is 8 years old.
Well, that's awesome
Oh,
because
boy.
I read the part where I think years later you ran into your birth parents, like 30 years later, and then they gave you the Bible then? Is that when they
Yes.
gave you? So what a present, and then they passed not
And they
too long.
passed away. And
So
they
that was
said-
kind of the reason for them to stay around.
Yeah, well, they gave that to me before they both left and passed away. And they said that was next to my crib.
Well, I think, and then your support for firefighters is,
Oh,
is
yes.
obviously. Did they send you on a cruise too?
Yes, we went on a 3-day cruise to Ensenada, Mexico, with burn survivors from the foundation. And my foster sister that has a visual problem went with me with Armando. And we had a wonderful time. We had a support group that we met, in different times to give, support for different situations. And it was such a wonderful time.
Well, I liked your support group thought processes because then you ended up it helped you get independent living in your own apartment.
Oh, yes.
And that's a big deal.
Oh, yes. That's what helped me to have a good future life.
Well, hopefully we can have you come back and we'll find some local other survivors and maybe we can have you talk to their chapters here.
Oh, yes. I'd
Yeah,
be more
'cause
than happy
you have an
to.
interesting story because you made sure you got through high school. You're getting stuff fixed, and then your husband's a nice guy, and
Yes.
you're having fun. You're on vacation, and you're
Amen.
making sure your every day is a good day.
That's right. And like my foster mom always told me, take each day as it comes.
Well, I think that's good advice from the minister's mom.
Oh,
'cause,
yeah.
well, like today, coming down the hill from Tahoe to here, we could look at that view of all the trees changing colors. You don't get that every day.
No,
so
you don't.
It's something you should appreciate.
Oh, yes. And I think that it's all beautiful. It's all God's creation.
Well, do you have anything to say as far as some of the people that might be watching when they need some hope to keep strong during all this experience?
Oh, yes, I do. One of the things I want to say is that never lose hope. There's always help out there when you feel like you're going through a struggle. And we all go through struggles, but you know what? Just live each day as it comes, and that's all we need to do. And leave things that are hard for each of you up to the Lord.
That's good advice. And then go out and give out your phone number again.
Yes. The phone number is area code 408-489-3396. And please don't hesitate to call if I can be of any support to anybody.
And then that phone number for the San Jose Firefighters Burn Foundation, and Scott is the number of the is 408-507-0981. If you have a regional chapter, maybe they can either mesh them together and kind of get those discounts on those cruise ships and
Oh, yes.
get those kids to camp. And because one thing, when you go through life and you feel like you're by yourself, once you go into a challenge and you have other people, it seems like it takes away some of that stress.
Oh, yes.
Is that what helped you as a young woman?
Oh, yes, it did. And also being raised by a wonderful Christian family.
Well, I know you do a lot of outreach because just here at the Copeland Arts Center, you're already giving your life story to some of the people in the building.
Yes.
So you're not very shy.
No, I'm one that likes to be open to a lot of people.
Well, is this your calling right now to help people?
Oh, yes.
So that's kind of what your goal is, to keep people aware and what to call you and
Yes.
be there to talk to you and things. And do you have a chance to volunteer anymore for what you're doing at?
Well, I'm going to see how things go. I want to. I want to help people in the future because, everybody goes through challenges day by day. But I'm just going to leave it up to the Lord what He wants me to do on different ways. But I definitely want to help burn children, and those can go to camp.
Well, I think send a donation. That's a nonprofit, of course, and you can send some kids to camp. How much does it cost to send a kid to camp? Do you know?
Well, because they have to. Some of them have to have one-on-one attention, depending on their circumstances. It could cost maybe up to between $1,500 to maybe about $2,500 for each child, depending on what they need in their circumstances. But that's up to either a week or 2 weeks, depending on the age of the camper.
Well, I think that's a pretty awesome thing to do.
Yes.
It seems like it helped you in your life, or when people were nice to you and you
Oh,
got
yeah.
saved out. And we're down to our last 50 seconds. Did you want to give out your phone number again?
Yes, one time, 408-489-3396.
And then in the last little bit of time, did you want to give out any more information? You want to talk about anything?
No, that's as far as it goes. I just want everybody to know, to be open to what the Lord is talking to your hearts.
And take it day by day and enjoy.
And take it a day at a time.
And enjoy each day.
Take each day as it comes. Enjoy the beautiful day as it comes to you.
Well, I like your attitude, so thank you for being on Health Talk. It's been Michael Smith for Health Talk. If you have any other people in this region have burn situations and you want to be on Health Talk, I'd be glad to have you on the show and maybe hook you up with Luanna and the other firefighters that we've mentioned. So Michael Smith for Health Talk, and thank you very much.